there was more fantasy than reality, rape and pillage and things that would inflame the public. The public, it was a very popular war. The public was really up and ready to go.
We love short-term wars.
Which brings in the collecting phase, because...
So what is one of the great items that you have?
Well, as a memento, many of the states and many of the communities, either counties or cities, struck gorgeous medals. Some made out of sterling silver, some just beautiful. Some were struck by Tiffany or from Shreves up in San Francisco, and they issue them to the returning veterans, often with names on it. And of course, they're very, very collectible. A lot of the federal medals were very collectible for that era, and a lot of them are traceable.
And you have one of those?
Oh,
or?
I have a huge collection of them.
So of all the things you have, which is the item that you value the most or comes to mind that is one of the more significant, specific pieces?
I've got a lot of groups, but one of the ones from a collecting point of view that I find just delightful is a Civil Star group to a surgeon.
To a surgeon?
I'm taking it back, not to a surgeon, to a cavalry officer. He was with the 10th U.S. Cavalry, one of the black troops. He was a white officer for a black troop. And in this group was his Indian Wars campaign medal and his Spanish campaign medal. And the Spanish campaign medal at the time for acts of valor were awarded just a Silver Star device. And he actually had 2 Silver Stars awarded for battle heroism. In 1918, the U.S. issued the true Silver Star, which is what we see today on our troops. And if you had the Silver Star devices, you could be reissued the Silver Star. He got a reissued Silver Star with a second award device, but along with it were the award certificates, large documents with the names of the battles and his uniform. Wow. And it's just a double Silver Star with the replacement Silver Star award is very unheard of.
So what do you do in the real world?
I'm a physician.
You're a physician, and what's your specialty?
Infectious diseases.
Infectious diseases. And what inspired you to go into that specialty?
I like mysteries.
You like mysteries?
So unexplained fevers, unexplained diseases, physicians who are having a hard time getting infections under control will call a specialist in and say, what's wrong, and fix my patient. And
so are you having, as a historian and collector, have you studied some of the great plagues and that kind of thing?
I'm familiar with some of the great plagues, yeah.
Which is one that comes to mind that you have studied or found most interesting?
I find the plague epidemic in London in the early 1700s, I believe it was, to be fascinating, in part because of the ignorance that the British had at the time, as opposed to some of the European mainland colleagues. I think the Dutch were the ones that actually had started isolating the victims and actually were able to limit the epidemic.
So what were some of the stupid things that they were doing there?
They believed that the best thing they could do was take whole families, even the healthy ones, and lock them all up together. They would sequester so that everybody got sick. And they had no concept of sanitation. And of course they didn't know what caused it. I think at one point they actually killed cats, thinking that was the problem, which is very counterproductive.
So what should they have done in that case?
They should have actually not isolated with healthy people, and they should have gotten rid of the rats. It was more of a sewage problem and more of a crowding problem.
Wow, that's fantastic.
But what I like about it is that that's from that epidemic came that children's song, "Ring Around the Rosie."
Oh, that's how it came about? How did that come up?
That's a child's song that's passed down since then, child to child, generation after generation. Adults do not teach this song to children. Children teach this song to children.
Wow.
And it's come down in an almost unchanged form, even though the kids don't understand what the words mean anymore, as "Ring Around the Rosie."
It does have kind of a scary sound to it.
It's a plague song.
Ah.
It has to do with the symptoms of the plague. And it's really quite gruesome because, the old ashes, all fall down was probably cough, cough, all fall down. If you get the pneumonic form of the plague, you die. They fall down and die.
Wow.
And so this is actually the children's way of describing this horrible epidemic, how people were just dying all over the place. They made this children's song to describe it, and it's passed down in almost unbroken form, child to child, since the early 1700s, 1600s.